Hey everyone, I wanted to get this started up just a minute or two early because Caroline was having a little connection issue, and I want to see if I can get her in on the video today. We're going to be talking about farrier fears and how to help your horse with their concerns over standing calmly and easily for the farrier. So let me see if I can get Caroline on board here. It'd be nice to have her in on the conversation. I've got, let's see, maybe I'll try to line it up and see if I can get her on in another way, but we'll see how this goes. Let's see, I'm going to try one more time here to see if I can get this to happen. Yeah, looks like she can come in if she can. Anyways, so good morning everyone. It's nice to see you, sort of not see you, perhaps you're there. I'm hoping you're there. And I wanted to start talking a little bit about how to use flower essences to help your nervous horse stand for the farrier, because that is really a challenging thing for a lot of horses to deal with, to, have to be able to have a stranger who doesn't come very often, and they have to stand still and behave themselves and not fuss, because the farrier has to get work done, obviously, and has to move on to a bunch of other horses and can't struggle with one horse all day. That doesn't work out. There's a lot of different techniques that you can use to help your horse stand for the farrier, but today I thought we'd try to really dial in on some flower essence help for your horse, because that can be a really important possibility of some different things that you can use to help bring your horse on board with. And Caroline says she's not seeing it live, but I think I'm live. It seems to be appearing live, and I'm not sure what's going on with her connection, but anyways, we'll just muddle through. The basic point of using flower essences is to help with your sensitive horse, help them get more calm, get more grounded in their bodies, and more relaxed. And usually my first start is to try something called Rescue Remedy. And Rescue Remedy is a flower essence combination formula of 5 different flowers. That was one of the Dr. Bach essences. And Dr. Bach created this formula to help with a crisis type of a situation. So for shock or terror or really significant fears, this essence will really help to kind of ground the horse into their body. Well, it's for everyone, for people as well, of course. And that's a really useful essence. What I like to do is to apply some on my hand and to rub it on their face. And if the horse is too fussy and too concerned about having their face touched, which does sometimes happen, you can go ahead and rub it on you can take it yourself, and then you can rub it on your heart, and you can rub it along the body. Let me see if I can get Caroline on. Looks like she's on watching. Let's see how this works. We're learning live. I don't know. I'm trying pushing the buttons to get you on, Caroline, but I'm not seeing how that can work. I invited you to join, but I'm not seeing that yet. Well, not sure what to do. Okay. Hey, Caroline, are you there yet? Looks like it's trying to add you on the call. The Rescue Remedy can be used internally or externally, and should be used, I think, before the crisis happens. Sometimes you don't know the crisis is going to happen, but you have to sort of take it as it goes. But I do like to give them some Rescue Remedy beforehand, and then during the issue, whatever's happening, because that will help them stay calmer and more relaxed as they're working their way through, a farrier visit. You can use the Rescue Remedy yourself, because quite frankly, if you have a stressed out horse, it's pretty hard not to feel a little bit stressed out yourself. And then you can also use it as for the horse as well. I like to give it on a little cookie, or I can put it on their face. A lot of times I'll take the Rescue Remedy, put it on my hand, and place it on their forehead. And that can be really, really helpful for them to help start calm and come back into themselves. So that's one of the many possibilities for using something like Rescue Remedy. And I don't think I think she's having a connection issue today. Her
her internet is not good, but I'm gonna try to add her again. Let's see if we can make this happen. That would be much easier than. Yay! Hi, Caroline. I can see you and hear you, although there's a lot of. Yeah, I can see you, Caroline. I think you're live, so there you are. I hear the voice I'm expecting.
For those
Any,
who are listening to us, I happen to be in France, and the place where I'm at has just horrible, horrible connection. Can you hear me, Kathleen,
yeah.
now? Okay,
Yeah.
super. Is the river better?
Yeah, it isn't happening now.
Oh, that's super, super, super. So I was listening to you, and you were talking about flower essences
Hmm.
and the how you're using them, and I missed a little bit of this, but our topic for today was how to help your horse when the farrier comes and you have a horse that's anxious, or that's fidgety, or that is simply afraid of the farrier, which makes the situation dangerous for the farrier,
Yeah.
dangerous for the horse, and also can create this issue where farriers don't want to come and work on your horse. So you can find yourself in this situation, which I found myself in, where my horse actually kicked a farrier, and the farrier decided not to come again.
Yeah.
Except he didn't tell me, so I found out. I found out 7 weeks later
When the shoes start falling
where
off.
that happened. So I was not aware. We were not friends back then when that happened. So I was not aware of all of the things that I could do. And today, I certainly would have tried flower essences.
Yeah.
So you were going to talk about it some more. So I'm going to give you the floor. But what would you recommend to somebody like me who comes to you and say, my horse just is really not comfortable giving its leg and gets aggressive when a farrier really
Yeah.
insists on taking the leg.
Yeah. Well, you're if the horse gets aggressive, so to speak, it's always really worthwhile to recognize that that is a sign of fear. That the horse is not being a jerk, the horse is not being aggressive to be dominant. The horse is generally quite terrified, and a lot of times they're not very stable on their own feet. Where if they have to pick up a foot and have it held, it can really develop a lot of fear inside that they're going to fall over. And so a horse that's falling over in the cross ties is pretty terrified. And so it's really worthwhile to recognize that this is, if you have a horse in this situation, there's going to be a variety of things that you're going to need to do with them. The T-touch method that I teach has a lot of great tools to help your horse to relax, to learn to balance themselves better, to feel more calm in their bodies, to feel more stable and safe. So there's a lot in there that's possible, but we thought we just tag in on one very specific type of process to work with this kind of fear, and that would be the flower essences. So
Yes.
I tapped into the rescue remedy, or also known as 5-flower formula, a little bit, because it's the most accessible one available. You can find it at a lot of places. It's available at the checkout line at a lot of natural type food stores. I
Whole
don't know
food.
where.
Yeah.
Yeah, Whole Foods. In Europe, presumably you can get it at the pharmacy or wherever. It's pretty widely available. So I like to give you something that you can actually get your hands on and then be able to use. So that is a good starting point, because it's a formula that's made for fear. It's made for anxiety. It's made for extreme stress. So it can help a horse come back in. We were talking a little bit about the 5 flowers within it, and I can kind of give a little bit of a detail on what each of those flowers might be helpful for offering to the horse or the individual in a level of fear and terror, essentially, because that's, when you've got a horse who's grabbing back their foot, they're really, really scared. They're really feeling uncertain, and the possibility of falling feels very real to them, let's say.
And I want to thank you for saying this because, this particular horse was a really large horse. He was very commanding. And so, in hindsight, I can see he was afraid or that he was uncomfortable. But in the moment, and back then, it was very easy to confuse that behavior for him being, those terrible words that we always hear: dominant, resistant, disobedient. And it turned out that he had a little bit of ring bone,
Mm.
and probably in one foot was more uncomfortable having to carry more weight on one foot. And when he gave one foot, it put when he gave his foot to the farrier, he had to carry more weight on his other three legs, and probably was uncomfortable. So I think it's really important, that we learn to recognize pain signals, in all types of horses, not just, a horse that's afraid is not just a horse that's, cowering in a corner, trembling. A horse that appears confident in other aspects of his life can be a horse that is in pain or in fear. And it's something to really consider when the horse says no. And that's something that I've learned working with you, which I really appreciate. Now, what are the flowers that are in the formula that specifically I mean, I know that the formulas they're like little soldiers that come to your rescue. They're like little knights, little warriors that come to help you. So what are the five different flowers that make up the formula, and what do they do?
Yeah, yeah, and it's so funny whenever I try to recite the five flowers, then I usually miss one. I don't know how to. Whatever, it always works out that way. But the three flowers that I think of as core to the fear parts of the remedy are rock rose, cherry plum, and star of Bethlehem. And each of these flowers that I'll tell you about, you can always get individually as well, as single flower essences. And that's sometimes they're more specific to whatever your horse is going through. So if you think that your horse is very much one of these types, then you may very well just go with a single flower essence, and that might, do the perfect trick for you. So cherry plum is an essence that's helpful for mental kinds of fears. So with a person, it would be more like, you feel like you're about to lose your mind. You're just about to go nuts and just freak out and run around. For a horse, I think of this as the kind of horse that responds really badly to being held tightly, or going, having to go into a box or a trailer. The sort of horse that level of confinement tends to escalate things for them. That's sort
Okay.
of a mental kind of a fear where they just start to spin, and it starts to spiral, and it just like starts to get out of control. And that's what I see as being a cherry plum type of a fear situation. So that's one of the essences in rescue or five flower. The next one, rock rose, is really useful for the type of fear where you feel like you're about to die. That's like that near miss kind of situation. If you're in the car and, the brake lights up ahead of you just start, and you see your life flashing before your eyes. It's that kind of fear where you just are, on some level, your body is preparing to die.
Okay. That's
And
good.
that can get stuck in your body. Those sorts of emotions can get frozen in your body, and you can have post-traumatic stress disorder. That's essentially what, one translation of what that situation might be. And I think that the horses experience this a lot, where maybe even one time they were handled and they couldn't get their leg back. And they just permanently impressed in their mind or in their cells that, they could die. This is something that they could die. And so they were afraid of falling over, or maybe they did fall
Yeah.
over. And so using essences can help to soothe those fears and to help actually release them out of the cells, out of the body.
Well, there is something that I really liked in your conversation with Loyola, the trauma specialist
Mm-hmm.
last week, which was he talked about how when you are experiencing any kind of trauma, there is a part of you that is still healthy. I mean, that's how I interpreted it. So there is a part of you that can be that you can shore up, you can kind of like resource, I think is the word that they use, um, so that you can support the part of your systems that can assist the parts of your system that are more profoundly damaged,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I thought, when you talk about the formulas, I think I relate to it in the sense that they address different stages of the way a horse handles fear. You know, we have the fear, we have fight or flight, we have freeze, we have faint. You know, we have all of these different stages, and it seems like the essences that make up the rescue remedy kind of kind of tap into each one in a way, each one of these phases, so
Mm-hmm.
that so that it offers like a full 360-degree remedy. I mean, it's stupid to use that word, but it offers a like a really comprehensive remedy for all of the different notes of emotion the horse is going through. So
Mm-hmm.
it has a lot of nuances,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And then I
Yeah.
did have a question for you, which is not something that you and I talked about before, but it when the horse or the person experiences a formula, like a formula that has 5 essences in it, and does the formula kind of adapt to, how, I don't know how to express this. When if you're having a problem and you're taking this formula, is the one flower in that formula going to maybe resonate higher, if
Mm.
depending on what the problem that the horse is experiencing, the kind of grief or the kind of fear? Or is it kind of like
Mm.
all 5 little soldiers go to battle to help you together, and they're always kind of equal in their ability to help? Or does the system pick up the one essence that is going to really, really support it in that moment that it's having a crisis?
It's an interesting question, and I don't think that anybody could answer it definitively, because I don't think that there is an available definitive answer. What my experience is that as I work with a client with a formula that's composed of multiple different essences, some essences are there as support essences. Some essences there are as sort of structural to kind of help contain the experience of the process of the
Mm-hmm.
emotions. And then some might be more active. In the circumstance of something like a formula, rescue remedy, 5-flower formula, I think that different essences are going to be more resonant to the individual taking them in that moment. So I think that some of them we're going to be stepping forward, like, yeah, this is the best fit, and so this component of the formula is going to be more active or engaged at that time. But then again, I'm not sure it really matters that much. That
Okay.
I mean, that it's getting into a fine point that I'm not sure that it it's kind of like,
It matters.
just
Yeah.
use it, just do the
Yes.
work, right?
Okay.
just
Okay.
just go
Okay.
ahead and use
So
it.
let's
And
go
I would
back to
love to
using it.
loop back to
Yeah.
the you mentioned the conversation, and I just, in case anybody didn't know, that the Flower Essence podcast, which I and my Flower Essence pod partner Rokana Feld have a podcast that we're on quite a few episodes at this point, and we had a wonderful guest, Loie Colbeck, on for the most recent podcast. So you can check that out anywhere you listen to podcasts. and kind of listen into that conversation, because we were talking very specifically on trauma and trauma recovery.
Yes,
So
it was
just to
fantastic.
fill in the gap in case anybody's like, what are they talking
It
about?
was great. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm going to go straight back to the horse. So
Uh-huh.
now I know a little bit more about it, but let's say I don't. So if I come to you, and what would be your advice? So I've now gone to the store and I've purchased my bottle of Rescue Remedy.
Hmm.
So when would I, how would I give it to my horse? And when would I give it to my horse?
Okay.
Like,
So
what
the
would be
first
the
thing to know,
protocol?
yeah, the first thing to know
Okay.
is that since you're working with a vibrational remedy, there's no chemical component involved, so you don't have to worry about any sort of negative interactions that might take place with anything else you're doing. Any
Okay.
other kind of medication or whatever else you're doing, it's working on a very different level. So you don't have to worry about hurting your horse or doing something wrong. It's like, just relax about that. That's okay. You're fine there.
Okay.
Um, Phew, there's so much to worry about in life. This one is at least one you don't have to worry about. If you look at the side of the label, it's going to say that mostly it's alcohol. And that alcohol is just there as a preservative. It's a very effective preservative, been used for thousands of years because it works. It's just there to keep the formula from spoiling. So the alcohol is not a active component of what you're
Okay.
offering, and so you don't have to give so many drops per pound of animal. It's a
Okay.
vibration, so
You're
it's
not making your horse
totally,
drunk, people.
you don't
Yes.
have to do that. That's totally not necessary. That would be very expensive and not helpful.
Yes.
So you will get the same result with one drop as with a bottle. I mean, like, don't worry
Okay.
about that part. So go ahead and I really enjoy putting drops on topically on animals. I think that they respond really, really well, because essentially you're just getting it into their energy field. That's all you have to
Okay.
do. It's not that complicated. So you can go ahead and put it on your hand, and then just to kind of take it, and I usually will just go over the face. I might rest at the forehead. You might put it underneath their nose. I find a lot of times the horses will smell it, even though there's no smell,
Okay.
other than maybe the brandy has a little bit of a smell. But they will sit there and they will take it in, and then they'll think for a minute. If they're in a place where they can do that, they'll think for a minute. Usually they'll chew, maybe do some blinking, and kind of just like, you can just see them sort of dropping into it. That's a great scenario if you can give them the space to do that and have them not be pressured. It's not something like you just want to hit and run and like, okay, get back to the farrier, get back to the doing what you were
Yes.
doing. Give them a
So
minute
maybe
to take it in.
before your farrier comes in,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
have a
If you can.
moment with your horse. Maybe take some yourself too, because you're
Please.
probably apprehensive about the farrier coming.
Yeah.
So you and your horse can be in that same calming field, and
Hmm.
and kind of,
Exactly.
yeah, be supported while you're kind of petrified, which I think a lot
Oh
of
God,
people
yes.
are when they're holding on to a horse that's all over the place.
I know. It's
So
so, like, it starts to escalate and you're just like, oh my God, when you start going through your mind all the things that happened the time before and the things that could happen, and what's going
yes,
to happen, and you're going to upset your farrier, and it's just, you just start to spiral. So
okay,
yes, please give yourself some rescue remedy. Also, go ahead and take it. Usually I have people take it under their tongue. But any way internally is fine. You can use it
okay,
externally. It's just, I think for us people, it helps us feel like we're doing something if we take it internally. Your horse may very well want to lick it off your hand, and that's fine and great. No,
okay,
no harm
okay.
there. That's all. It's all good. It's all good. Just keep it going, and then
You're
do keep
funny.
it going. Keep it going. Keep offering it. Every few minutes even, and your horse will start to learn to ask for it. They'll start to recognize that you can help them, and will kind of remind you, like, hey, I could use another little help with that right now.
Okay. Is there, now we're talking about rescue remedy,
Mhm.
okay? But would there be another essence that you would recommend in a scenario like this?
Well, I can kind of continue with the essences that are in it so that people will understand, some of the
Okay.
components and what they would do, because those would be some, there's some very good specific essences for fears in this
Yes.
formula. So it's not just that it's sort of like, the happy Band-Aid. It actually has some really very on point types of essences
Okay.
in there. The Star of Bethlehem is the next one that I use a lot in my practice and recommend a lot. It's kind of one of these like all around, pretty much everybody can use Star of Bethlehem. Have you ever had a shocking experience in your life? Have you ever been
Oh,
scared?
never,
And
never,
no, I mean, like,
Kathleen.
this
It
never
has never
happens.
happened to me.
Never happens. Yeah. So it's like, everybody, Star of Bethlehem, just start taking it, please. It is an essence that helps to soothe shock and helps you to come back into your body after you've had something really
Okay.
scary happen. And that could be you went to the dentist, and that could be, you took a fall, or, you almost got kicked, or you did get, all sorts of possibilities. Any of those are useful opportunities to dip into some Star of Bethlehem. And, the more entrenched a pattern is in you, the longer you should be taking it. If
Okay.
if you're in an emergency crisis situation and it's not something that goes on long term, just take rescue remedy, take it a bunch of times, as you're working your way through it, and then you maybe don't need it anymore. But if
Right.
you have a lifetime of accumulated traumas, and this is just another one on top of it, then you're probably going to want to be taking essences. Or, we're talking about people and horses here.
Yeah, yeah, but
We're not
I'm thinking
we're not
when you
specific to the
get,
species.
yeah, when you get one of those rescued horses
Mm,
that has been through, a really traumatic experience
yeah.
and has been maybe starved or has been mistreated, then it sounds like Star of Bethlehem would be a good bet.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Please, more of that, and
But
keep it
I
going. Use
yeah,
it for at least, uh, you know, I usually recommend, if you're working with a rescued animal, and you have a hunch that there was some trauma in the background, go ahead and give Star of Bethlehem and/or Rescue Remedy or other essences that you learn to be appropriate for your horse. Give them for a period of at least 2 weeks. I would say 4 weeks. Twice a day for 4 weeks, and then you can
okay.
evaluate and see what's changed, because essences work slowly over time as far as removing those frozen and stuck experiences. So you can't just expect for like one bing and then never have a problem again.
Yeah, it's not an aspirin.
Yeah,
It doesn't take away the boo-boo
yeah,
in a couple of minutes. But
yeah.
what I also wanted to, so we have the fluorescences, and I just want to make sure that people know that in other one of our discussions,
Mhm.
which are in the group, we've talked about other methods of helping a horse be more grounded, be more settled. We've talked about wanding.
Mhm.
We've talked about main glides, tail glides, forelock glides, leg
Yeah.
circles. So we're by no means saying that, if your horse is having all of these issues, rescue remedy alone is going
Solve
to
all your
be the
problems.
solution. We just want to make sure that we explain that this is one tool that is available to you in addition to the rest, though 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 really flower essences have a greater dimension than a leg circle. There is a the only way I can say it is there is a willingness and an intention from the plant and flower and the nature world to assist us that is present in the flower essences. And I thought it was also interesting because Loyola, you say Loyola, I can't pronounce it, Loyola, in the discussion was talking about, it's fluorescence therapy, and it's very easy. It sounds so gentle, and it sounds so mild, when in fact it's really quite potent and powerful. And we tend to, um, us non-initiated, like uninitiated, who are just really learning about this world, it's because they're available over the counter, because they're really not very well known at all, in America. They're beginning to be used more.
Yeah.
We're not really cognizant of the fact that it's a very established field. It's a field, and it's an area of medicine that is recognized in some countries and is actually
Yes.
reimbursed by healthcare in some countries, and is extremely popular, for example, in Spain, where people routinely will routinely go and find out what they can use. And it's also interesting that a flower essence is different from an essential oil. It's
Yes.
not the same. And with the flower essence, we are working with the vibrational, it's vibrational healing, which I think is a beautiful thing, because we have all been in this situation where we're with a horse, we're in the arena, we're having a not very fun time, and then we say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to take my horse for a trail ride. And I think we all kind of think, oh, well, the horse is better on the trail ride because it's not having to work as much. I actually don't think it's that. I think a lot of the time, where do we trail ride? We trail ride in nature.
Yeah.
We trail ride and we're surrounded by plants and trees. And I think our horses are attuned to those healing, supportive, gentle, nurturing, supportive energies in ways that perhaps an unconscious part of ourselves are, that we are not fully aware of all the time. Though now we're seeing therapists, doctors recommend that humans go for forest walk, and
Yes.
we have such a things as forest therapy, which is an actual field of medicine. But I think for our horses, it makes sense that the flower essences would be so effective, because they're connected to nature in a way that a lot of us are not, and especially horses that have the benefit of access to large pastures are always with their face in the grass, always having the opportunity to go sniff this flower and that bush and that tree, and not even sniff it, because as you say, they just need to be in the field,
Yeah.
the energy field of these natural elements,
Yeah.
to or these natural beings, to be able to feel better.
Yeah.
So I just for me, it's like I'm sort of like tumbling along, trying to understand and making connection between all of these things. And I think it's fascinating,
Yeah.
um,
Well,
and
there's a lot
really
to know.
really
There's a lot to
worthwhile.
learn, and
Yes,
it's
yes,
also a lovely journey. So
it
it's
is.
yeah.
And also I think the fact that this rescue remedy, because it is sold at Whole Foods, at the on the counter, you go through the check through and boom, it's there.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just to see it as a novelty item, you
Mm-hmm.
know, when it's something that really should live in your purse. You should have some in your purse, some at the barn,
Yeah.
and just be grateful for how amazingly effective it is, and that we
Yeah.
have this tool to help us in any situation where we are traumatized, where there is shock, and God knows we have a lot of this right now.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
it's just
ongoing. Yeah.
it's
So
yeah, it's
it's
very
it's good
it's
to just let people know that like that's available to them, and it's you
and
can
it's
you can
available to
have
your
it
dog.
around. Yeah,
Yeah.
for everybody, for the whole family. Yeah.
What I'm thinking is we should give some to ourselves, to the horse, and to the farrier, and it should be a rescue remedy
Ye-
party.
I think that would be great. If your farrier's on board, then I say that's fantastic.
Okay.
It can change the whole vibe of the interaction in a way that's profound. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah. All right.
So now, do you want to talk about any of the other techniques that you would use a little bit, or
Well, I think what we should do is
open
to
go ahead.
maybe have further conversations, because we know that the Farrier challenge is real. The pain is real, and
Yes.
that there are a lot of other possibilities. So it's probably better to link perhaps in the post to some different conversations that we've had about some other techniques that
Yes.
could be really, really useful. I like you said, leg circles, wanding, all really worthwhile techniques to think about to help prepare your horse for the farrier. You don't do it in the moment the farrier's about to arrive 30 seconds down the road. You work with your horse ahead of time. So any of those sorts of aspects, lowering the head, lifting the back. If the horse is locked with the back down and the head up, it's very hard to lift your legs and balance properly. So the better you can
Yes.
improve their posture, the easier it is for them to pick up their legs. Also body wraps can be a great help. I know I've used them very often for farrier. Just doing a figure 8 body wrap helps your horse to feel where their body is in space. As I'm holding for the farrier, I am trying to help my horse balance. I will, you can go in and you can do some interventions. You can go, oh, my horse, the head's up again. Let's help the horse's head come back down. And then they'll be able to give the leg more easily. So you are an active participant in the process with the farrier, as hopefully you are anyways, but having your wand with you and go ahead and just stroke the legs as
Yes.
your farrier is working. Lots of possibilities. And then layering in some flower essences is, something
It's
that
really
could,
valuable. I
little
think
pieces all together will bring you to where you want to go.
I also wanted to share, we had a discussion on the in the group page, and there was a farrier that chimed in and who has a lot of experience and was explaining how she teaches a horse to give the leg.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's of course something that should happen before your farrier ever comes. So
Yeah.
this farrier happens to have horses. She teaches her own horses how to do this. And this is also a time where you could be giving rescue remedy because you
Right.
kind of want your horse to go into the lesson in a kind of like a good place mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And what she was saying is she'll pick up she'll ask for the foot. When she gets it, she releases it immediately.
Yeah.
So that in the very beginning, the moment the young horse or the older horse asks for the foot back, wants the foot back, she lets it go. She lets the horse know that, oh, when you want your foot back, I will give it back to you. So that
I'm listening
it
to you.
yeah, and it eliminates the fear that the horse
Mm-hmm.
has that this foot is trapped.
Yeah.
Because of course, when you pick up a foot and you hold it, and the horse has never had this experience, what the horse experiences is what in nature would be its foot got caught in something, or
Mm-hmm.
something has a hold of its foot, and now bad things are going to happen to him.
Yeah.
So
Very
pick up
scary.
the foot, release the foot. And if you have a horse later on that has balance issues like we're talking about, work with your farrier and help your farrier understand that with this horse you're going to do a little bit, and you may have to let the horse put the foot down more often than the farrier would like to, because the farrier is on a schedule.
Yeah.
But that horse needs its time, and then also consider things like a cradle, so that the horse can put its cannon bone or its toe on a
Mm-hmm.
surface that feels supportive, so
Yeah.
it has less reasons to pull back.
Yeah.
And those things are just quote unquote things that you can do. But
Mm-hmm.
where they family up with the flower essences is, and they family up with our philosophy of working with horses, is that they all come from the same place of wanting to support and assist the horse,
Mm-hmm.
rather than try to force the horse
Yeah.
or make the horse,
Discipline
or
the horse.
see any kind of attempt by the horse of dialoguing with us, of communicating with us, as insurrection or
Yeah.
rebellion, or or the horse just being bad. It's like, I think there is no bad horses. There's just horses that are not heard. You know, and your flower essences are one way where we recognize that. I think when we give the flower essences to the horses, when we give the rescue remedy to the horse, it's not the same as giving a shot of well, I'm going to give you a shot of ace so you don't move while we're doing this,
Mm-hmm.
where you're a thing and I'm going to put that upon you, and I'm going to mechanically block your reactions. The rescue remedy and the fluorescent space is you really are trying to heal the wounds of your horse. You really are trying to help your horse um, just experience experience the moment differently.
No, the goal is
So
always to help your horse be okay with where they are and okay with what's
yes,
happening. And as the person working with the horse, that's your job to help them be okay with it, and figuring out ways to help them be okay with it, so that they can be okay with their life. They can be okay with what's going on around them and their experiences. So everything that we do, everything that we teach and talk about is all about, not it's not about medicating, it's not about, dulling or numbing. It's about helping them be okay with where they are.
yes, and that's so different. It's just such a different optic
Yeah,
of being with horses and of training horses.
yeah,
We're not looking at obedience for obedience sake. We're trying to create a space and a way for a horse to be able to be himself, to be present in the moment with you, with the farrier, and to experience it without dread, without having an adrenaline rush, without having all of these all of these terrible things that we all experience when we are being locked into a situation we wish we were not. I think I don't know. I mean, for some reason the failure scenario really resonates with me because I think it's one of these situations where, you know, every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks, depending on your schedule, whether it's a trimmer or a farrier, it's something that we all have these things in our lives that we have to do that we dread. Oh my God, we have to. Oh my God, I have to see my in-laws again. They're coming. It's Sunday. They're coming. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
it's. I know in-laws fair is not the same thing, but it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of like, what if there was a way to make this experience not something to dread?
yeah,
And maybe it's not something that you madly enjoy, but it's something that you can go through,
yeah. Be
and
present.
it's and you can be present, and you can look at
Hmm.
your person that's there,
Hmm.
and you can look at the failure, and it's not the enemy, and you don't have to be sweating and to be
Yeah,
unhappy in your skin while it's
yeah,
happening.
yeah,
And I think that that's what those techniques that you offer
yeah,
provide. And it
yeah,
doesn't have to be that. It's like you're 100% cure and you're tap dan the horse is tap dancing into the sunset. But if you can just get to that place where you can stand and take a deep breath, and you sometimes see these horses who are very comfortable with having a farrier work on them. And what do they do in the cross tie? They're snoozing.
yeah.
They wake up when you change the leg, but otherwise they're like, oh, sometimes you're lucky there is a little
Get
bit
the
of
little mani
sun
petty
filtering
going.
in. Yes, exactly. They're like, okay, life is good. Maybe there's a little bit of sun. Maybe it's the
Hmm.
morning.
Yeah,
And they're just like,
yeah.
okay, I've had my breakfast, and
Hmm.
life is
Totally
good.
chill. That's
And
that's the goal.
that is what we're trying to do. Life is chill. Life is good.
Yeah.
So,
On
do
that
do
note,
we have anybody watching us, and do they have questions? If
I
you have
haven't seen any
questions,
questions popping up, but if you
put
do,
them in the comments.
yeah. And also, we'll be monitoring the comments afterwards as well. So if you're watching this after we've gone off of live, then by all means, please put a comment in or a question, and then we would love to answer them. But
Yes,
we're
please.
probably about at the end of our time, and we'll be watching. We'll be monitoring to see any questions, comments, or
Yes.
feedback.
And while we're apolitical, kinda, not too much, but I do want to say that this is a historic week we're living, and some of us are very, very stressed.
Yeah.
I think all of us, I think, are started the beginning of the year feeling like it's still the end of last year, and
Hmm.
the rescue remedy. is a godsend. You can take it at home a couple of times a day. Driving, you can drive. The brandy in it will not do anything, and it really really helps. And I think we saw a comment go through.
Yeah,
There was a
Circle L is asking how long to use the essences.
okay.
So for crisis type situations, you would be using up to every few minutes, as long as the crisis is ongoing, right? And then you can, if you're working with an ongoing situation with something that, you know this horse has trauma, you're working with a lot of fears about a lot of different things, and it's not like one specific thing that's happening, then you would be working with the essences over a period of time. I would recommend at least a month. Picking some essences that you want to use, making up a blend, or just individually, dropping them to them twice a day for at least a month. And at that point, then you evaluate what's going on with your horse and then what needs to change. Something has come up, or just keep going. So that would be my recommendation. Okay, good.
Okay.
All right. Well, it was
Anyone
nice
else,
talking with
people?
you.
Yes. Well, it's always nice talking to you, and I will talk to you again very
Indeed.
soon.
Yeah, we'll do
But
it again soon.
I'm going to do a little plug because you can't see it, but Kathleen sent me a care package for Christmas because she knows me very well, and she sent me a bottle of scented spray, fluorescent spray, and peace fluorescent spray, also little roll-ons. But you can read more about them if you go to the Flora of Asia Facebook page. Um, and I have to tell you, I mean, I took one whiff of the center, and I was right back in Sonoma, which I haven't been able to go home for a year. So you can imagine, I'm a little bit stressed,
It's been a
and
rough year.
and it has been so helpful to have these sprays because I know they don't just smell good. You also put flower essences in them,
Yes. Yes.
you
Yeah.
know.
It's a blended type of a product, so it has a little bit of essential oil in it as well as the flower
But
essences. So, yeah.
it's just I'm totally not getting off the call. When I was,
Well,
it's
I
like I
do have a
read.
client later, so I can't stay with you all
Well, I
day,
was no, but I
even
just
though
want
it
to
would be
say
fun.
I was reading the ingredients, and just reading the ingredients actually made me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Himalayan cedar,
Mm.
ginger, cardamom, vetiver, and then shima, sweet chestnut, yellow catnip, Yulin magnolia, Yunnan pine pollen. I mean, you read this and you're like,
Ah.
you can hear the goodness. Just it was so good. So I want to thank you, and we're going to say goodbye. Thank you for listening to us, whoever was out there,
Yeah.
and we will talk to you in 2 weeks. We'll
All
have
right.
another call in 2 weeks about
Yes.
something else.
Sounds good.
Okay?
All right.
You take care. Bye,
Bye.
Kathleen. Ciao.